are on episode 20 of Let's Talk Money with Wendy Silebi. Thank you for the positive responses to the previous episodes that we have done, and a special thanks to those who have subscribed to the channel and who continue to like the content. But if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please click on that bell, on that small bell, and then you are subscribed, and then you will not miss any of our empowering podcasts. Well, today we are doing a follow-up on the previous episode, which is episode 19, where we had an empowering and wisdom-packed discussion with a married couple in their late 50s and early 60s. And so today I thought, why not bring a young, dynamic, humble, and gorgeous couple to engage with you, so that couples in their age group and life stage can learn some wisdom financial nuggets. And so please help me welcome Olani and Zanele Zigalala. And if you are next to your table, ukashapata or you can play your horn and go bo 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 bo. So welcome Olani and Zanele.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just as a form of introduction, both of them work in the banking industry. They are speaking to me in their individual capacities, not representing their organizations. And at the same time, in this podcast, we don't give financial advice, but we just have conversations around financial matters. They're here because they are my pastors, and they are also people that I fellowship with and that I know and that I believe would be able to empower and share some wisdom nuggets. So, as a way of starting the podcast, I always allow my guests to introduce themselves. You can share as little or as much as what you'd like about maybe who you are, where you were born, what you do, and so on and so forth. If you want to share your qualifications, people must know they must know that I'm bringing heavyweights here to come and engage with them. So it's over to you. Any one of you can start.
I'll start. Thank you, Wendy, for the opportunity. I appreciate it a lot. I have a disclaimer myself or a question for you. I don't know why you chose us, but I guess you know the reasons why you chose us. But we are grateful to be here nonetheless. Ugamo Zanele Zigalala. I'm born Zanele Njogo, from the Njogo family. I come from a home of a mother and a father, 3 siblings. I'm the last born, the smartest out of them all, by the way, if I might say so. I married Ikolani in 2006. So we are on our 18th year this year.
Wow.
It's been a good journey so far, and we're trusting God for even better years ahead. I'm a mother of 3 beautiful kids that keep us young and keep us running around all the time. I work for a financial institution that will remain nameless for now. And I've been in the banking industry for the past 16, 17, 18 years, I think. And I think some of the knowledge that we have here is gained from there. So looking forward to chatting to you.
Sure, thank you. Hello.
So Wendy, my name is Olani Zigalala.
Better known as Mr. X.
Better known as Mr. X, aka X. I'm a Soweto boy. I was born Ezola. Grew up there for I think a year or 2. We moved to Eshawela, so my home is Eshawela. And I went to a school Eshawela as a young boy.
So available.
Yeah, a bit,
okay.
Not a lot of that. I am husband to this beautiful woman here. I'm also working for a financial institution, and I'm in the compliance division of that particular bank. I've been in banking for all my life. I think I've been working now for 20 years, if not more than that. That's me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. one banker to another. I can remember go to a bank and you'll find another banker, or go to a wedding and that's where you will meet, your partner. And while we are there, so maybe just a question for me, for you, is around, okay, so you met and you decided, right, we are taking this relationship to the next level. What were some of the considerations that you discussed regarding, the marriage regimes? Because, marriage regimes have got an impact on finances. Remember that every marriage regime, you have to think about how simple it is or how complex it is, how the contracts, the way they are set up, and I mean, where there are assets and there's money. So those are things that you have to think about. And, when I was growing up, right, we only knew of in community of property. So that's the only marriage regime that we knew. So maybe let's just talk around that. Did you even consider that?
Should I start?
You can go.
Yeah, because when Mr. X speaks, he'll take the whole hour. So I'll take my 2 minutes. I think for us, because we got married while we were quite young, and what we thought of, what the vision was when we started was we want to build, right? He didn't have assets, I didn't have assets. So what we did prior to getting married, actually, we saw a house somewhere in Soweto, and we said, since we know where we're going, why don't we buy this asset in prep for the future? And that was our first asset. And obviously, because we're not married, it was under his name. But the intent was for us to build. And I think what made it easy for us to choose the regime that we chose was because we wanted to build, and we wanted to build together. And I think also culture told us that there's negative connotations to the other ones. Halieta anti-naturally, which means you're planning to divorce, etc., etc. I think it was the lack of knowledge that time and a lack of exposure. But I think, just in closing, for us, it was just that idea where we are building and want to build together. Hana next, Hakina next. So whatever, when we lose everything, when he loses, I lose. He loses nothing because he doesn't have nothing. So I also lose nothing because I have nothing. But when we build together, then it just makes sense for us to go that route.
That's true. And I think what we did also, Wendy, was we spoke about it. So there was communication about what we want to do. There was lots of discussions around finances. We were quite open and quite transparent around, where we are at that point. So, I mean, even though Ms. Rashadi, she knew how much I earned, for instance. I knew the same about her. And, we just said, listen, the building aspect is important for us to a point. So we spoke about it quite extensively. And it helped us that we were quite young at that time, maybe a bit naive, but also knowing exactly what we wanted. What helped us is that we spoke about it, communicated, what are we building, how are we building it, what do you want to achieve. There was no secrecy around the intentions, my intentions specifically same as her, so it just made it easy for us to choose a regime that we chose. But again, being young and having nothing, it was quite easy for us to really choose what we chose, and it has worked for us. I think different people at different stages with different sort of backgrounds, needs, assets might choose differently, and might want to do things differently. But I think our advantage and what helped us was just off school, young, had nothing. It was just simple.
No, I think that's great. And I think it's very important that you are giving us, that context, or both of you, were just starting out, and really the idea was that you are building, you know, and it doesn't mean by choosing other regimes, they're not building. But I think what I appreciate the most is the communication aspect, because, you know, sometimes when they're in love, but in this Bible, like that's what people fall in love, you know, it's like you were walking and then you fell into this ditch called love, and then you found yourself in there, and then before you know it, you are getting married. So Tolore, you know, the couple have not had communication prior to getting married, or what regime are we choosing, what do we want to do. So that is quite important. The why piece, you know, a lot of people don't discuss the why and the what and the how. All they know is that they love each other and they're going into this thing. So I think the takeout for me in what you're saying is that it's important that you communicate. And then, you know, Polani, you were just saying that both of you you know, spoke about finances, what you want to do. I mean, where did you learn about finances? You know, in my time, Koskolo, they didn't teach us about finances. Our parents didn't talk to us about finances. And whatever you knew about finances is what you picked up from friends or what people were saying. Even though I was working for a financial institution, it's only way later that I picked up some of the lessons. So I just want to know, Luna, where did you learn about financial, you know, principles? Was it from home, from friends, from work?
I think it's from all places where we had engagements, right? So obviously you pick up pieces from what people around you say, whether it's friends, whether it's informed or misinformed information. But if that's what you get, it's what you have, and you will pick that up. We did pick up a couple of things from home. I mean, I come from a home where my parents didn't have a lot, you know, but I was quite amazed at how they made things happen with very little that they had, you know. So and they know how our parents are. They don't talk to us about finances to say this is how much we earn, how we spend money. You just see money being spent, you see things happening. You don't even know. But I think what I knew is that they didn't have much, yet they tried, and I think they just tried to push. So for me, my first learning was from Gohai, you know, just seeing how little can just go a long way from what they did as abazali, you know. But I guess as we grew up, then I worked in a bank. My first job was in a bank as a teller, by the way, you know. So you start understanding just principles around, okay, what is money? How does money work? You go to school. I studied banking at UJ as well, you know. So you start learning some principles from there, you know. But I guess as you live life, I guess the experiences that we then had found ourselves in, you know, when we now started buying a property, when we are, you know, raising a family, then you learn more about, okay, so I can do things a bit differently. Maybe when I was a bit younger, I did things like that. Now a bit older, I know a bit more and you do things differently. I guess life teaches you, and life is probably the best teacher. But we pick things up from, you know, where we are, work, friends, you know, colleagues, people that we interact with, and also some lessons from home and some principles from home as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I think for me, it's aligned to what he said. I think the biggest educator was home. I guess similar backgrounds, parents didn't have much, but they used the most or the little that they have or they had to maximize our lives. I think we were talking the other day and I was making an example about my parents, my mom to be exact. So my mom worked in a school that I went to. And every day, payday, every month payday, would go body shopping in town, right? There'd be Edgar's there, there'd be Foschini there at that corner, there'd be another store, Truworths, and all she did was go and pay the accounts. And I observed and I said, grateful for what she's doing, because it's a plan, you know. Parents have to make a plan, but I don't want to be that person who goes around and pays off that account. So I remember, young as I was, I think I was in high school that time, but very young still, I said, I do not want to emulate what is happening here. So I I then said, okay, how do I not get into that position? And that was just, let's not get into debt. I think what we always believe more high, if you can't afford it, don't buy it. And I think what we've always said is we're not going to put ourselves under pressure, seeing family X or family Y has X. Now we want it. You know, we're gonna just do our own style, ride our own bus. If it's low, it's low for us, and we'll get there. But for me, I think seeing my mom moving from one store to the next, to the next, to the next, like, oh my God. And she's doing it for us. She wasn't doing it for anyone else. So she had to do what she had to do. But I said, that something clicked in my head to say, I am not going to live like that. And the how is, let's not get into debt unnecessarily. I don't think she did it unnecessarily. I think the need at that time was saying, the kids need clothes, let's make it happen. But for me, that was a learning and a key learning. And I think other places as well where we've learned, you know, we read journals. I think as we got older, we started reading on how to be prudent with money. And I think at church, there's, you know, church teaches us also how to use money, how to be wise with your money. And I think that's where we got our tiny wincy bit of wisdom from.
I like that. And you're actually confirming, just as I said in the previous episode, and I think for episode 18, I was speaking to a financial planner. And, you know, she writes books for kids, for children. And I asked her a question, why did she choose kids specifically? And she said, you know what? Children, it has, you know, research has shown, Moribana, they actually learn their money habits from their parents. So they watch what their parents do. So they will either follow most of the time what their parents do, because they think that's the way. So, you know, this then says to us that, you know, we always have a cloud of witnesses that are watching us, whether we know or whether we don't know. And they are studying us, they are watching us, and they are actually emulating how we do things, especially our children. You know, Rona, they when we were growing up, you were saying, Mr. X, you know, you saw how your parents did, you know, so much with so little. So with us, when we were growing up, we were quite okay. But, you know, in teaching us financial literacy, they didn't sit us down and say, this is what you do, this is how you manage the finances. So what they would do, like at the holidays, at the Kolodikwana, they would, you know, every time at June or holidays or so much, whenever September, they would put us in a car and they would drive us to Hammanskraal. Even now, I think Hammanskraal, right? They would drive us to Hammanskraal or a place called Bosplas. And that's where my late aunt's husband's parents lived. So there was no running water. There was no electricity. There was nothing. So I think they would take us there. You know, we would sit in the car, watch the lights somewhere as they were disappearing, and we would be weeping for yo, we know where we are going. But I'm so grateful for those learnings because they expose us to the other side of life, to say life is not always rosy. You don't always have, you know. Therefore, number one, you must be prudent with what you have. Number two, you must always plan for any eventuality because life can throw the curveballs to you. And so that helped me a lot, that experience. Because things we didn't even do, really the cheese girl. But when I started working in the deep rural areas, you know, I was home. When I arrived there, people were like, oh, I was like, oh, because I had already been exposed to them. So I think for parents that are watching, it's so important that parents make sure that they are mindful of what they are doing at home because their kids are watching them, they are learning from them, and they're going to emulate what they're doing, you know. Yeah, so, you know, there's also this adage that says, Likodwa lisemanzi. You know, and as youth leaders, because you're youth leaders, you're a pastor at church and you work with youth. How important is it for young adults and maybe for youth and for children, to manage their money, their finances prudently? How important do you think that is?
So I think it's important, and maybe I want to relate a story quickly also. I mean, when I went to high school, I went to high school in the suburbs, right? And we had to commute, so taxi from home to town, and then a double-decker bus or metro bus from town to Highlands North. And I used to get money on a daily basis, pocket money, but it was enough for transport, and it was enough for me to eat something at school if I don't have a lunchbox, right? And that for me, go high school really taught me how to use money, because if you lose a coin from that amount of money that you have, or you are careless with money or you overspend, you're gonna have difficulty getting back home, for instance, because you need money to go back home. And then I had one or two instances like that as a young person, where I was quite irresponsible. But it's important to learn from a very early age, the right principles, to understand the importance of money, but also to know how to use money. I think parents can teach their kids by giving them pocket money for the month, for instance, to help them on that journey, just to say, this is your money. If you use it wisely, you'll have money left over come month end. But if you don't use it wisely and it runs out mid-month, you're on your own, So it's quite important that we as parents, teach our kids those principles around stewardship, how to handle money, how to be responsible with money. I learned, but maybe I learned the hard way, because I was given money, and I think to a large extent I was quite responsible. But there's days a couple of days where I would either overspend and have to depend on my other friends just to get a bit of money to get home, So it's important. But also, I guess, how we model the use of money in the house as parents. We've got a teenage daughter, and we're quite deliberate around how we use money and how we spend money, but also just communication around, when a child wants to have certain things, we don't just give you everything to say it's free for all, you'll have whatever you want, Let's teach kids to appreciate what money is, to appreciate that money, you have to work hard for it. And once you work hard for your money, to also learn that you have to use it wisely. And we try to teach them as young as they are. I think some kids get it, some kids don't get it. I think your role as a parent is just to teach, and hopefully the kids will get it, or the younger people will get it. So it's important that we train them while they're still young, and once they have those principles, then they just run with them into adulthood, and they'll actually serve them even into their old age.
My cousin's daughter has got young ones, and she's teaching them as well financial prudence. Rona, our parents used to say, money does not grow on trees. I don't have money, and we never used to understand what exactly do they mean about money does not grow on trees, because at school they teach us money is paper and it does come from trees and so on. So they didn't have a better way of telling us about it. But what I like, what she does is she gives her kids chores to do. And if the room, mobile thing is untidy, then she will say, if you pack the room, then I will give you 5 rand. Then she puts it in jars, then there's a jar. If you've washed dishes, then it's so much. And then the child sees the money actually growing. And then they realize, this is how you save money. You put a little. So what they do automatically when they've given them money, they don't spend it. It's just how you can teach, because people always say, how can you teach young kids? It's examples like those, because then they grow up like that. I was telling someone that I love telling this story that my grandfather, I used to stay with my grandfather, and it's actually, this is in my upcoming book. And my grandfather used to, when we would eat, we would set the table, the two of us, we would eat. And then while I'm eating, sometimes you see a piece, you think, last, and then just more kitlo ring in luma, stop. That's enough, you know. You can't eat everything off of your plate. So he was teaching me the principle of saving, to say if you have money, don't eat all of it. You know, you say, don't be like these people, man. Bajang, and then the gravy, and then the people that wash the dishes have got nothing to do. So it was his way of teaching me how to save, and this is so critical for us as parents to teach our kids. Okay, so I mean, you said to me that in the beginning you sat down, you spoke about how you want to build, what you want to build. So did you literally set financial goals? Did you have a vision, a financial plan? Was it individual? Was it together?
I think it was together. And I don't think we wrote it down per se to say, 5, 10, 15. It's something we've always had at the back of our minds, what we want to do. And we have a term here at home that says kill the bond. I think it's shoot it. Yeah, we're killing it. I think when we got married and we're not used to debt, we saw this big debt, the statement coming from the bank, or no, you guys owe so much, you've only paid for 2 months. We can't pay this for the next 20 years, you know. And I think that's where the conversations of staying out of debt came from, to say what can we do to kill this debt? It's good debt, house bond or whatever they call it is good debt, but it's not good because it chows cash flow that we have in the house. So what we said is let's have a plan of how we're gonna tackle this home loan, and by God's grace, God gave us the wisdom of how to tackle it, and I think within 10 years or 8 years towards the term, it was paid out. And again, it's that communication, and also just to huitima, I don't know what it is in English, you know, not to be gratified
English,
at that time.
Instant gratification.
Yes, you know, you forgo certain things because you know you've got this plan that you want to achieve. And when the plan is achieved, now you can do the things that you wanted to do. So for us, I think that was one of the things that we tried to do. Let's kill the bond. Let's kill it. Let's murder it. And then once we murder it, then we've got more cash flow and we can do other things.
Yeah, because that was my next actually question, where I was going to ask you around that. You know, as a young couple that is building, there's so many competing things, right? And hangata when people buy a house, right? And by the way, guys, I'm sitting here, I'm sitting in their home and we are relaxed because it's paid up. If it was owing, we would be scratching ourselves here. So, but you know, sometimes what you find is that as couples, especially, you know, young couples that are building, that have just gotten married, they want everything. A1, right? So there's so many things that are competing for your limited resources. Get the house, then it's kids, and then you want furniture, and then you want cars. I mean, how did you juggle that? Did you kind of like say, let's pay off the house first, or how did you do that, you know? Because I think that's the practicality is so important for someone watching, you know, so that they can start implementing that, especially those that are going to be starting. You know, they must know Rome was not built in one day.
I think we were quite deliberate about the home loan specifically as well. And also it helped us that we were bank employees. You know, so as a bank employee, you've got the benefit of having preferential rates. You know, so that was quite key for us. But what we did is we then fixed the amount of the repayment amount of the bond. Even when the interest rates went down, we kept on paying more. When we got additional cash, for instance, if there was, you know, a bonus, whatever else it is, we just put it there because there was a plan, there was a goal, and we are building. And we also spoke extensively around the importance of us staying in our lane and running our own race, you know. I mean, I remember in our first house, Copionville, the house was quite. It was a nice house, but it was very basic. We didn't have a lot of things, you know, because we also didn't want to strain ourselves as a young couple. I mean, I joke about this all the time. Our TV stand that we had when we eventually bought a TV, because we didn't buy a TV for a while, for a couple of months actually, because we felt, let's just save up, let's have enough money to buy it cash where we can. You know, when we bought a TV, we didn't have a TV stand. We took a crate and we just put them together. We took Sholiake, it was yellow in color, just put it up on the thing, and you put a TV there, you know.
And just to say, that's how we did it. But rona he re camera bona ka dipampiri tse nice tsa camera and that was our TV stand.
And it worked for us. I mean, if you came to the house, we'd never even tell you that's a crate that are covered with shoulder and you know. And we refused to succumb to pressure. You know, so here we are. We work in a bank, we've got colleagues, we've got friends, and they are moving out, you know, go from the location into the suburbs, you know, and we stayed. We deliberately said, you know, we like the area where we are, it's close to our families, it's close to work, close to church, so let's stay there, you know. And we stayed, you know, when everybody was moving out, we felt, you know, we had a few more years to stay here. And we stayed there. So our journey and our own sort of timelines that we wanted to work according to, you know, were defined, and we stuck to that. You know, we didn't do things because Smangman is doing it. You know, we didn't do things because we felt that the time was really ahead of us. You know, we had our own pace, and we stuck to it, and it worked for us. It really worked for us. Because we find ourselves where we are, Konamanje, you know. Had we moved earlier out of Soweto to the suburbs, you know, it meant a bigger house, it meant a bigger bond, it meant, you know, you spend more money, you know. So us staying, I think we stayed for about 9 years, you know, staying that long really helped us to save, you know. So while we're paying for this bond, you know, we've got excess cash because, you know, we bought a house in Soweto and we're still able to save money. So that when we wanted to move, we've got enough money to save, enough money saved for a deposit, for a bigger house, or for whatever the next was for us. You know, so we really chose to stay on our own lane, and also live a restrained life. I think we're not spenders, and we really tried to stick to the principles of spending what we had as much as we could.
And just to add there, I think also there's also another motto that we use more high, that we try to spend below our means.
So if beyond your means. Yes.
So if this booklet is 50 rand and I've got 60 rand, let me not spend my whole 50 rand on this thing, right? Let me spend below. I think that has helped us because if you're gonna spend money, that's where the trap is, because you now want to spend money that you don't have. But if you live below your means, then you know, no man, I can't afford it now, so I just have to spare another month or so to get to that aspect. But also another thing that I think, as much as was a benefit working for the bank, it also has its downfalls because credit is available everywhere. There's credit card available, the limits are extended, there's excess bond that you can take out, there's overdraft that you can take out, and also preferential rates like that. So the trap is, you know, the snare is very tempting. It's there for you to grab the money that you don't have. And I think that's where we fail sometimes as human beings. Keep eating. Like there's overdraft, there's home loan, excess bond, your home loan. I can just grab it and buy the car that I want. Buy the things that I really don't need to impress, I guess, the people that really don't like me.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I worked for a bank, right?
Yeah.
And I also was exposed to all of these things. And you know, when you have a good credit score, you know, you are attractive to everybody. And when they start engaging you and they start offering you, you think, oh, I get special. And you know, when you do what you know, you account in your head, all right, if I take this, 2005, if I take this 1005, then I'll be able to because what are you doing? You are, you know, calculating in your head, and you're thinking primeless and then before you know it, you are in the debt spiral. And I mean, it's so embarrassing for you working in a financial institution, finding yourself in a debt spiral. And that, I mean, means that for you not to fall into that space, you really need to be able and one thing that you said that I really, really like is staying in your lane.
Yeah.
And I love talking about this analogy of race horses, that, you know, and your t-shirt and you know, when you go to the race course, you note how they put those horses in their turnstiles, and then from there all the horses are focused on the mark, which is your vision, which are your goals, you know. And then when that bell goes, every horse bolts out of there. And they're running towards the mark because they've set their own goals. They're running their own race at their own pace, and so they're not really bothered about their neighbors. And this is so important for couples. And even if you're not a couple, you're just a young person, you've got friends, maybe you're in a group with your peers, you see them succeeding, and then all of a sudden, when you want to have the things that they have, but you actually don't know how they've planned, what their goals are. But now they are, you know, doing it according to their goals and stuff like that, you know. Something, your credit card, you know. When the credit card came out, you know, I had these friends at work, some guys, and across our office, normally a bar. And honestly, we didn't understand how a credit card works. All we knew was that, you know, they gave you a card and they've given you 1,000. 1,000 was like a lot of money. And I remember, you know, the first day they got those cards, that Friday, you remember they used to have those machines across the road. That Friday, I think they eyed 50% of the credit they had been given. You know, it was just from a lack of understanding. And much later, when they were supposed to pay back, then the pain went in. I mean, I found myself in a space where I had debts and I had to get myself out of it. Have you guys ever found yourself in a situation like that where you kind of like went off and then had to come back? How did you deal with that? And what were the lessons for you?
So,
you know?
So for me, also Wendy, she actually brought me back because I think when I met her, she was not working for a bank. I was in a bank, you know. So I need credit card. I've got an overdraft, you know, and get a user because I mean I work for a bank. I'm a young person, you know. I want to live my life as well, you know. So I'm mixing overdraft, I'm mixing credit card. Then she comes into my life and then she says to me, "But it's not your money," you know. And I never saw it like that. Now I thought, no man, you know, it's made available to me. I can afford to pay it. It's cheap credit because it's prime minus 2.
It is cheap.
You know, so let me just take whatever and go spend on whatever, you know. And when she said to me, "But Bon, I'm afraid it's not your money," it clicked to say, and I'm spending this money. I don't even know what I was buying because I was staying high. I didn't have a house at that time, you know. So you're buying things that are not very useful, if I can call it that, you know. And I had to get back onto that journey to say, because it's not my money, let me find a way to pay it off. You get paid, your salary comes into your account because you've got an overdraft. You can't even see it because overdraft, you know. It was never nice, you know. And I learned from that time to say, as much as it's made available to us, and I think you made a point earlier to say, which is some debt is good. If you get an asset, paid off, that's good debt, and I got into that trap as a young person where I was just spending and spending and spending, didn't think about it very much, and luckily when she came on board, she's like, it's not your money, spend your own money. And then my mindset changed to say, if I really want things, let me start saving money for those things and get them that's I made that mistake as a young person, and I've learned from it, and I've applied principles of saying, if I can't get it now, or if I can't afford it, let me save and get it after a bit of of time, instead of getting everything now and then you suffer to pay it back later on. But I learned that from quite a young age, and I've lived with those principles for many years now, and I just found them to be working for me. But also on the opposite end, Wendy, I learned how to save from an early age. As much as I was ironing on the other side, spending the credit card. We had a financial advisor at work, and as a bank employee or as a branch employee at that time, you're not forced, but you are advised to take out a unit trust or something like that. Then I took out one, again, very young, I'm thinking, let's just put in 100 rands a month, it's not a lot of money, but I could afford to put in 100 rands a month. And, right from, I think probably from the third salary that I was earning, I started that particular unit trust, and I've kept it on, even to date, And when I then met her, or when we wanted to get married, I had a bit of money saved up in that unit trust, and I was able to go back there and take out that money and use it for the wedding or in prep of the wedding. So as much as I made a couple of blunders, I think I was also quite fortunate that I learned about some of the saving products or principles from quite an early age, and I've used those and they've worked for me.
Yeah. And unit trusts then, I think Noka Kenya 100 Rand or 50 Rand, and it's amazing how the money, and once you've done a debit order or a stop order, because automatically on payday 100 Rand, you don't even pay attention to it, and it's amazing how it grows and goes. And now always when I speak to people, I say, saving and investing does not need millions. You start with the little that you have, and it's amazing how it will grow and just multiply. And maybe just to finish off on what you were saying, debt and credit, is just to say that, for those people, sometimes you get these pre-approved letters, but hey, you are approved. Approval. But we qualify for this car and whatever. Approval does not mean affordability. Those are two different things, and we really need to start thinking long and hard, and that means that you have to be so prudent with your spending plan, which is really your budget, and so just to follow through on what we've been talking about, there are 3 pillars: wealth creation. It's really starting to acquire the wealth, and then building it. And then in the building, what strategies have you used, in terms of diversity? Have you diversified your portfolios? Do you even talk about it as a couple? And how often do you even revisit, those plans? So, which one do you want to answer? Multiple questions. Yeah.
Sure, loaded questions. So I think from a planning perspective, yes, we've got goals. Yes, we know where we want to land off. Now I want to retire by 50. Let me just put it out there. I don't know if it's practical or not. But I think we talk about it. We are very open about what we have at the moment. Funny enough, two weeks ago, this week, we're doing our budget in terms of what we want to focus on now, as in currently now, what we want to focus in the next 3 months, what we want to focus in the next 5 years or so. You know, so I think it's prudent. It's worthwhile discussing long-term plans and just having an overview of what we want to achieve. Yeah.
You know, we've tried to diversify where we invest our money.
Yes.
And we get advice, financial advice, because we've got access to these things, right? And we make sure that we apply not only prudency but consistency in our investment plan. You know, there's nothing that's as bad as you start, you run with it, you stop after 12 months, for 3 months, then you go back again. You know, so we've tried to consistently put money away, whether it's an investment, whether it's a retirement annuity, whatever else it is. And because we've done it consistently over many years, you start seeing the compound effect of that, you know. So it's quite important to have that as a strategy. But I think the consistency of saying, you know, let's just do it on a continuous basis. When you've got excess cash as well that comes via many other means, you just take it and you put it there so that you ensure that you grow what you already have. What I've done also personally is that I've changed jobs a couple of times. We have moved from different organizations, and I've seen that what people normally do is they would cash in their pension. You know, I was quite deliberate that in my moves and when I change jobs, I don't cash in the pension because I understand the value of, you know,
compound interest.
But also having enough money at the end of your working life. You know, I'm not there yet. I've got many years to go. I don't think I'll retire at 50. But it's quite important for us to be able to have enough, to be able to live on even when you stop working, you know. And I know that people sometimes, they've got good intentions to say, you know, let me retire, let me resign from the job, take that money, you know, invest in a business. And some have done very well, and people have really built some good businesses, but some have really lost all their investments that they've worked for the last, say, 10 years or so when they cash them in, you know. So I've always said, you know, if I do resign from a job, you know, I don't cash it in. I just carry it over to the next company, because to your point, you know, if you start from scratch at the age of 35, you're going to have a mountain to climb, you know. But if I've been saving for my retirement from a young age, you know, by the time you get to, I don't know if it's 60, 63, 65, you know, you've got quite enough. But in addition to that, you also have other sort of investment portfolios that will supplement whatever you will get from pension. Because I don't think it will ever be enough. So it's always important to have additional sort of other means that will just, you know, try to supplement what you have when you retire.
Yeah. So you've said a mouthful, you know, and I really like that, that you prioritized retirement and you thought about it, because, you know, a lot of people think, let me cash out my pension, I'll start this business. You know, it's something to write a business plan and it's another to implement and sustain it. And then you've already taken a portion of the money, and people always say, I've got age on my side. And I think the mistake that they make is that then you are losing out, you know, all that compounding interest and all that opportunity, and then you start this business and then it fails. My goodness, then you are starting, you know, from scratch. And I think what I like about what you have done, you know, in behavioral science, they talk about a principle, time inconsistency, present bias, where, you know, people love to prioritize the things that shouldn't be prioritized. So, you know, you prioritize the that are supposed to be not prioritized. You focus, instead of focusing on long-term objectives like retirement, because the first day you step into that office, your retirement, but people always delay and think, let's have fun, let's buy all the things. So it's like, one retirement, 40, I will then start looking. It's too late, especially if you are, a couple. Now, this question that I want to ask you, or before I go to this, now that you've created wealth, you've grown wealth, how do you protect your wealth? Because you can't just grow wealth and not protect it in terms of, insurance, assurance, and all of that. To do that, do you seek the help of a financial planner, or do you think about it? I've been watching on TikTok, people are saying a whole lot of things that are misleading, and I'm thinking, please, people must not follow some of this education that is being said there, in terms of estate planning and all of those things. They just suddenly the wheels.
Yes.
A lot of people will say, I'm still young, I have got nothing, I can't see wheel.
True. We have an advisor, financial advisor, which we've been wanting to actually see again, because we've seen her for quite some time. But to your point also, when you have to protect the wealth that you have, right? We've got plans that we've taken out that will help us in terms of the property that we have. We are also now thinking about the kids, because we've got young kids. They must still go to school. Some are at school, they must go to varsity. We want to be able to ensure that we've got enough for when that time comes to be able to still cater for them and to pay for them and to ensure that we still maintain, I guess, our standard of living, etc. So we've sought advice, and we've been given advice around what products that we can take to be able to preserve the wealth that we have, to be able to grow the wealth that we have, but to be able to protect it as well, because you have to protect it. We've done the other things as well in terms of having a will and those things, even though I feel that our will has to be revisited. I was saying that to her that day. Let's just go, because when we took it out, our circumstances were X. Things have changed now in terms of where we are in life, kids, etc. So we just need to go back and revisit that to ensure that it is relevant and it's fit for purpose. But it's important to have financial advice, because we don't know everything. We think we know it. You think you work in a bank, you know those things. Our views are so different to what the advisors see and what they get to experience on a daily basis. So we rely on these people to help us, to guide us, to direct us in terms of how to maintain, to grow, and to protect the wealth that we have.
Yeah, and to cater for the kids. So I think for those that are watching, that are young couples, or even not even young couples that are planning to get married, or already you are married, you've got kids, speaking to a financial planner is the best thing that you can do for yourself, because we can't claim to know everything. It's the way we are having fun. I'm going to ask you two last questions, and these questions, by the way, were given to me by one of our viewers, and this shows where I'm serious. When I get feedback and people ask questions, I really pose them to my guests. So one of the questions was, in terms of managing monthly obligations, financial obligations in a way that prevents one partner feeling unfairly burdened by paying more while the other pay less. And then that leads to resentment and so on. Only the couples say, okay, when I reka grocer, upatala mtato kadini, upatala le mme cleaner. Wena ntate upatala bondi, upatala di koloi, upatala di school fees, and then you're thinking, Kosiami, you awugolos, mara, you feel or I'm paying 80%, mucho upatala 10%, and then but you don't even have those conversations. So I just want us to maybe just talk around that, or how can we help couples that are doing that to avoid that, so that they don't. And the resentment, it's subtle. Every month, and we like, I don't know if you're like me, but I like buying. It's a new dress, and my husband says, "Hi, it's okay. And they come on, I that resentment, and they build up, and then later on, it just becomes a huge thing, you know. How do we help couples, you know, maybe that are planning that way, that are doing things that way to come to some form of not of avoiding this?
Hey, it's a real one. I think, sure, it goes back to our opening discussion to say you go back and you speak. And not just communicate, but effectively communicate in terms of what is it that we have, right? You get 5 rand, I get 7 rand, okay? We've got 12 rand, but our expenses are so much. So how do we split them so that you don't feel burdened, I don't feel burdened? And there'll always be someone who takes more than the other person. That's just the reality of life. Someone who takes over the bond might feel they're taking more of a responsibility, which is the truth, right? But we have to find ways where we agree, and it doesn't have to feel like a burden, because you're still in the very same house again. So it shouldn't be. For me, it's the mindset that I'm building here, and this will not last for a long time. And the sooner we pay off the bigger debts, but the sooner we pay off the small debts, then we can focus on the big debts. So I guess it's the effective communication and knowing that you're working towards a similar goal. Yes, you might feel pressured at that particular time, but for the mere fact that you know what you're working towards, I think for us it's the same. So Mr. X in our household handles the bond, right? He takes care of the bond, then I take care of almost everything else. I'm sure there are months where he says, you're this bond, but he knows that we are working towards killing it, and by the time we kill it, he'll have this cash, or we'll have this cash flow that we have. So I guess basic, and it might seem too simple, but it works. Let's sit down, let's work out our budget. What will you take? What will you not take? And if you do feel the pressure, speak up, right? Because being burdened with everyone, it doesn't help our relationship either, right? Speak up, say, hey, I'm feeling a bit of a burden here. How can we relook at our finances? What can we take from you, from your piece, and plonk it here and try to cover this bond as quickly as possible?
And how you do that also is you have to be transparent, right? There's benefit in just knowing where you are. If I bring in X to the house, for instance, and you expect me to pay Y, it's not going to work. So it starts off by saying, let's see, Uti, how much you bring in, how much do I bring in, as a starting point. That transparency has to be there. And once you know, okay, when we put everything into one pot, or whether it stays in different accounts, whatever, but you know exactly what on your 1 rand, I've got 2 rands, or whatever, you know, and out of that, what can you do, what can I do? I've got a challenge where people are married couples, in Klambe, they stay together, husband and wife, and they don't know how much the other one earns or brings to the table. You know, how do you even begin to plan, and how do you even begin to, you know, to make things work as a couple? You know, so for us, it was important. It's important that as a starting point, let's be transparent about what we have. You know, Zanele is my wife. She's my friend, best friend. There's no reason why she must not know what I have and what she has. And once that is out in the open, then it becomes a bit easy to say, okay, right, seeing that you've got this, maybe help us with these things, let me I'll help with these things, and we all agree. What maybe becomes a problem with many people is the lack of transparency. And that's what probably brings a lot of challenge in a lot of couples. We've tried to ensure from day one that transparency is there, you know exactly. And it just makes it a bit easy to know who then takes care of what.
And then, you know, Zanele, you touched on the last question that was asked to say, how do we get couples, you know, to have peace or harmony where there are pay discrepancies? The man brings the bacon. So now the man is not, you know, maybe Zanele Kena who earns more. and then the man starts feeling, you know, "Oh no, I'm the man, I'm supposed to bring the bacon." How do we get couples, you know, to harmonize on that issue, to understand that it's not about who's bringing the bigger bacon, it's about how we work together as a team, you know?
Ultimately, it all goes into one bucket, right? And if it goes into one bucket, then it doesn't matter where now you brought in one or you brought in five, you know, because you're working towards the same goal, the same things. You want to achieve the same things as a couple, as a family, you know.
Yeah.
So it helps if you bring it to, and bring it together doesn't mean that you must now have one account necessarily, but you know, what is hers is mine, and what is mine is hers. She's got access to the money that is in my account, and the same way as well, you know. That just helps to harmonize the difficult subject of money sometimes, you know. And it just brings couples, I guess, closer together. We have to know who we are. I think we're not made by money, even if it is the woman who earns more than the man, you know. The people are individuals. They've got worth as individuals. They are, you know, they've got worth as a couple as well, you know. So I have to know myself, who I am, what I bring to the party, same as her as well, you know. And once I can settle that, it becomes a bit easier then to say, even if she brings in a bit more or does a bit more in the house, it doesn't take away from who I am as a person, and it shouldn't take away from who I am as a person. In fact, it adds to me, because again, we are partners. It's a partnership. We are partners. We are working towards a common goal. We want to achieve things together, you know. So it really should not be. I know it's easier said than done. It's actually easier said than done. But let's just know who we are. Find worth in the people that we are as individuals before we even bring in another person to them. Because once the money issue comes in, and there's more money coming in there, then you know, I'm gonna, you know. But if I know who I am, I know my worth, it becomes a bit easier and it's a bit more manageable.
Wow, so much wisdom in what you said, because I know. No, thank you so much, you know, Mr. and Mrs. X. I think we've come to the end of this discussion. Yaleboha for the wisdom nuggets that you've shared. Really, I want to believe that, you know, couples that are in your age group that are building have learned a lot, and even those that are still, you know, coming. There's so much that we can learn from this episode and the previous one. My goodness, you know. So we are at that point in the podcast where I ask my guest just to scatter one seed of wisdom. Or every time people think about this podcast, or Olani said this, Zanele said this, just that one nugget. It's a seed that you are planting to another couple. Short, sweet, and to the point, about finance and working together as a team.
Yeah, sure. A lot has been said, but I think for me is respect money, and it will respect you back. How you treat money, that's how it will treat you. So respect money, honor money, treat it well. It will treat you well back.
Awesome.
For me, it's two things. First one is consistency, right? Be consistent with how you use money. Number two, start early. If you want to build wealth, if you want to build anything, start early. And the earlier you start, the easier it is towards the end. But the difficult thing is just the consistency. So start early and be consistent. Whether you're trying to kill the bond, or you're saving, or you're building a career, or you're building financial muscle, start early and stick with it.
Yeah. There you have it. The wisdom nuggets, and start implementing them. So thank you so much for this conversation, and thank you for watching. And just as a close out, our numbers are really growing, and we are almost towards that 1,000 subscriber mark. please continue clicking on the bell, subscribe so that we can grow. And by the way, my book is finally ready. Please visit my website, wendysilibi.co.za, for more information. And please do not forget to click on that button and subscribe and like the content, because I can tell you this content was hot.